I'm fixing things. I'm fixing things. I'm fixing things. I'm fixing things. I'm gonna sell some guitars, 'cause I never play them. I'm gonna drop some words, 'cause I shouldn't say them. I'm turning off the news, 'cause I don't believe it. I'm fixing things.
Well, hello everybody.
Things.
Hank Linderman here. Welcome to Getting Angry. Here I am at lovely Falls of Rough, Kentucky. Mark Andes is back. Cindy Braun is here. Roy Frazier. Boy, look at everybody is here already. Of course, we ask you to please share, because we need your help to get our message out there. And we got a lot of things that we need to talk about, not the least of which is how rural America is going to be the key for Democrats going forward. You know, I'm your Democratic nominee for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd District. In a little while, we're going to be hearing from one of the Democratic Party chairs for a county, Breckenridge County, which is very close to me. In fact, I think the line is right out in the water out from my place. Anyway, the future of the country is depending quite a bit on how America decides to deal with problems in rural America. Urban America as well. I'm not trying to short-circuit that. And Barbara is here. Barbara, I'm so glad you're here. Please share. And we're going to talk about some of the problems that are faced in particular in rural America, which are different from some of the problems that we all face, the folks who live in cities. And I've been a city dweller. I've lived out in the country. I'm living in the country and have been for quite some time now. But I've lived in New York City. I've lived in Louisville, grew up in Louisville. So there are different things that go on in each part of the country. In fact, it's kind of strange. I've spent maybe 15 years going back and forth between Los Angeles, one of the busiest cities on the earth, and Falls of Rough, Kentucky. You know, I live on a street that's at the end of a chip and seal road. And, you know, I step outside at night and I can see every star in the sky. It's pretty incredible. Anyway, let's maybe get to some numbers. What do you say? Now this, right now, let's see, I'll do it this way. There we go. Let's see if I can get in there. Oh, great. So these are our world numbers, and the numbers continue to keep going bad. We have now crossed a new gruesome threshold of over 160,000 Americans dying. And President Trump, of course, wants to focus on the very best possible numbers he can explain to us, but it doesn't deny the fact that 160,000 Americans have died. If we had done as well as many other nations, most of them may not have needed to die. And we had an increase in deaths, of course, yesterday, 1,362, which is a tragedy for those families. Let's look at some of the states, some of the top states, and look at Texas, which added 11,000 cases. That may be the highest day they've had, I'm not sure, but they are certainly number one in the country right now. Notice that most of the deaths in America yesterday were in Florida. Deaths, of course, are a trailing indicator. In other words, as cases increase, it takes a little while for those cases to turn into fatalities. And by the way, we're going to have Dr. Greg here, and later on this week, I think I want to share with you right now. We've got some theme music for Dr. Greg. So here's the first sharing of the theme music. Let us know what you think. Here you go.
Greg Adams, good Dr. Adams, ask Dr. Greg.
I love it. Thank you, Randell. That's a beautiful bumper, and hope that that's going to convince Dr. Greg Adams to come by even more often. He's going to talk about hydroxychloroquine and the confusion that's reigning over that. So he'll give us the scientific answer as far as hydroxychloroquine. Anyway, notice that Texas has numbers that are getting quite a bit out of control. And I don't know if you remember me sharing this the other day. This is a picture from Houston, and it's talking about the emotional and physical toll that is going on folks that have to do the work of keeping us alive. They have to do the work of taking care of us. And this applies, of course, to healthcare workers. It applies to when you go to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store yesterday, and boy, that was a trip to go to the grocery store and see a big sign that said, "You must wear a mask," and people walking in without masks. And I spoke to the gentleman at the door, who was the employee of the store, and he had a mask on. And I said, "You can't make them do the mask, can you?" And he said, "No, we can't," which is really terrible. And that's one of the limitations we are facing, of course, is people being unwilling to do the right thing, which is really, really terrible. Well, let's move on quickly to a couple of other stories, and then we're going to call Hildegarde. And I think you're really going to enjoy meeting Hildegarde. She's a character. And I think it's going to be really great for us to get to know a lot of these people who are activists in the 2nd District. But let's look at this. Speaking of an activist, there's Mitch McConnell. And this is a story in the Daily Beast. And I don't get the subscription to the Daily Beast, so I haven't been able to read the whole story. But the idea is that Mitch is in trouble here in Kentucky. He appears to be leading Amy McGrath for the moment, but we're more than we're 2.5, 3 months away from the election, so anything could happen. But what is about to happen, it appears, is that Democrats are going to take the Senate. Now, again, I must warn you all, please don't think that means you can't do something about it. We use the phrase getting angry. The reason we've named this get-together Getting Angry is because it's not enough to get angry, because it's all too easy to lose your cool and yell at people and screw you and whatever and say all that stuff. Doesn't help. If we're going to fix the problems that our country faces, which begins with getting rid of people like President Trump and ideally Mitch McConnell and Brett Guthrie, then we're going to need to use our anger to focus ourselves. So let's look at, let's read some of this. It's been a bad, bad, bad summer for Mitch McConnell, from the shifting Senate map to the pandemic closing in on his state to the president, who has no idea how to make America great again or even just keeping Americans from dying. The majority leader who once held all the cards now looks like he's just bluffing. A wise man told us that everything Trump touches dies, but until these last few months, Cocaine Mitch has seemed like the undead exception that proved the rule. Now the ETTD, everything Trump touches dies. The curse is finally having its inevitable effect on the turtle, who's been the architect of the structures that have enabled Donald J. Trump for the last 3 years and 198 days. But who's counting? Very amusing, very funny. Let's not underestimate Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is probably the most powerful politician in the world behind Vladimir Putin. And let's not underestimate. He's a very skilled politician. And we're going to have to work very hard to do our best to defeat him, and also Brett Guthrie. And that's why I'm here. I'm running in the 2nd District. But let's call Hildegarde Pyle. Let me see if we can get her on the phone. And I think you'll enjoy speaking with Hildegarde. Let's see. One ringy dingy.
Hi.
Hi, Hildegarde. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I'm going to put your picture up. This is your Facebook profile, is what everyone's seeing. And it's 2 pictures. It's a picture of you with your a very artsy, almost French-looking picture with a beret and reading. And you're reading a book. But also your very wild sunglasses and your mask, because I know you're the type that wears a mask when you go out.
I'm fine. Hi, should I mute you on my computer?
Probably.
Okay.
Just talk on the phone with
what
me.
you have is what you have is my Breckenridge Bandito outfit.
Breckenridge Bandito. And by the
That's
way,
right.
Pam said to say hi to you. And
Good.
you're not going to say hi to Pam?
Hi, Pam.
Okay.
Is she here? Is she on us?
She just commented.
Good.
She just commented
good,
and wanted to
good.
say hi to you.
Hi, Pam. I miss you.
Probably.
I'm going to try to mute you again.
Yeah, mute the computer. Just talk to me on the phone.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
all these technical details. There's all kinds of
Yes.
technical details. Well, the first thing I wanted everybody to know, first of all, you and I have known each other. Well, I think I met you in 2018 when I started running. And you put
did.
on an event, I want to say at the Green Valley restaurant.
That's true.
Right.
It
And-
was early. It was maybe February.
Yes, it was very early, and I remember it being a wonderful evening, and I ordered poorly. You all had a particular thing that you ordered, which I think was a salad with a chicken breast on top of it. There were those of you in the know, and you all ordered very, very well, and I ordered
I have to tell you, Hank, I wasn't in the know either. That was my first time there. And a chicken salad, a chicken salad with chicken on top is always safe.
That's true. That's true. Well, and you and I actually went to the same high school, Atherton, in Louisville, Kentucky, although you probably graduated just before I got there, right?
I did. Well, yes, you're a youngster.
Exactly. But what brought you to Breckenridge County, which is a bit of a trek, and in a bit I'll show everybody where that is. Let's see. It's I think I can show them now. Let's see if you can see that. There's Breckenridge County in red, and just below that is Grayson. So anyway, that's where Hildegarde is the Democratic Party chair.
Yes, I am. It is a trek. I was born in Louisville, and I was born in a very urban part of Louisville. And then when I was about 11, we moved to the Highlands. And I stayed in Louisville until I was about 22, and I decided that California was much more culturally appropriate for me, so I stayed out there part of the year, and then I moved there permanently in '79. And I've lived all over California and traveled all over California. In 2001, my father died, and then I decided I would move back here to be with my family.
Ah.
And I've been here ever since, and that's when I met my husband, Gary, who is a farmer in Breckenridge County, and his family have been farmers.
And you're living on a
before-
farm that Gary's family has had this farm for quite some time.
Gary's family bought this farm in 1865 from an abolitionist who
Wow.
sold it to them on the day that Sherman burnt Atlanta.
Wow.
Their original homestead was a land grant from the Revolutionary War, so they've been around here a long, long time, and
So
they have a
you understand
real
the deep,
dedication.
you understand the deep roots that Kentuckians feel for Kentucky. You know, that we have families that have been there for 4, 5, 6 generations.
Yes, absolutely, and his family
and Gary's is one
always
of those
has.
families.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. He's a son of the American Revolution.
Very good. Now, what got you involved with the Democratic Party?
Well, I was kind of, to begin with, I've always been an activist. I've been an activist since I walked the streets for Gene McCarthy in my 20s. And that has never left me. My family have always been dedicated Democrats, and my grandfather was a wobbly on my mother's side, and he was a staunch union member. So we just have always been Democrats, and we would never think of voting any other way, or I just can't imagine it. I can just, if I tried to vote Republican, I can just see all the graves ripping open right now.
Well, look, Republicans are Americans too, and ultimately we have got to, I think one of the things that's gone on, especially in states like Kentucky, because Democrats stopped paying attention to districts they didn't believe they could win, and so they stayed away. But and that's why Republicans seem to get away with some of the promises they make that they never seem to deliver on. And there are real problems in counties like Breckenridge.
Breckenridge is one of the bottom or top poorest counties in Kentucky, and Kentucky is among the bottom 5 poorest states. I lay most of the problem with electing progressive candidates in Kentucky to the fact that we really don't, people here are not in touch with what is going on in the world because they don't have proper internet. They can't afford it. It's not here, even if they could. Their cell phone coverage here is limited. And I don't know how they expect to teach school here during COVID without having the children present, and that just can't be.
You know, I just put up some headlines from the Contract for Rural and Working America, and you know, rural broadband, even though it's number 8 on the list, is really one of the key pieces. It's really one of the first ones. 30% of the United States does not have broadband, and I bet that it's higher than that in counties like Breck County, that you don't have a lot of people with internet.
That's absolutely true. There are people that I want to get to come to my Democratic meeting, which I have once a month, and I have to call them on the telephone because they don't even have smartphones.
Wow.
I can't send a text message. A lot of times, I mean, I can send a text message to a lot of people and I can post it on my Facebook page, but some of the people here, really, I have to call them. They can't get a message.
So you're obviously in favor of it. Sounds like you're in favor of doing rural broadband and making that a national program.
I'm absolutely in favor to it. It should be done the way the Tennessee Valley Authority was done. And oh, by the way, the TVA did not hit this farm right here where I live till the mid-50s. My husband went to a one-room school, and believe me, he's not that old. He went to a one-room school until he was about in the 3rd grade, till they finally got a way to get to the school.
Wow.
But when he would come home, he was still doing his homework by lamplight. And then finally they brought electricity here.
When did they bring electricity to the farm?
The farm, maybe 56.
That late?
1956, yes.
56, because we had Franklin Delano Roosevelt did the rural electrification program right in 1936, and it took 20 years to make it to the farm. That's incredible.
Absolutely, and that's why I think I don't want it to be just like rural electrification, because you can see that wasn't perfect. We do need a program. It has to be something that the government, in which the government is involved, in which it regulates.
Right.
Because they're going to give the excuse of, well, there's only 3 people down your road. There's 3 people that need to be informed. They need to be able to work. They need to be able to go to college without leaving the farm if they need to. Gary's sisters went to high school via correspondence courses.
I think you mentioned to me one time your daughter, who lives and works in healthcare in Louisville, could do her job in Breck County and would be coming down to do that job on occasion because she's allowed to work remotely, but you don't have internet. You don't have robust
Well,
internet.
I have it. I don't have robust enough internet, and it's also probably not secure enough because, yes, she's been incidentally working from home since February because the firm where she works decided they wanted to protect all their employees.
Wow. Now, you've got some local races there that I know you wanted to mention.
Yes, I have a wonderful sheriff's candidate. His name is Bruce Anthony, and he not only is he wonderful, but there is a little bit of injustice here because the Republican county judge, when the previous occupant of the office had to leave, appointed a Republican to a post that was held by a Democrat.
Right.
But that's not right. And and actually, Bruce should have gotten that job. He was the most qualified candidate. So we're really for Bruce Anthony here. And he is a bipartisan candidate. I can see signs in people's yards for him and that I know are Republican. And it's wonderful. It's just wonderful.
I'm guessing that the nation is so divided at this point, and I can understand from a Republican standpoint, they would say, of course, we had the Republican judge executive, we're going to employ one of our guys. But we are so divided, and part of that is because we don't really address the problems of people like Gary. We're not really addressing problems that farmers in Breck County face. One person said to me recently that farmers, most of them, any profit they have is based on whatever subsidy they've been given.
That can be true. It's not always necessarily true, but yes, it can be true. It was certainly true well, it's true, but it's not really administered well. For instance, we had a bumper crop last year, but they decided in their infinite wisdom that they would just assume that everybody had the same yield no matter what size of the farm where they were. So, you could have had 60 bushels per acre, and if they decided that everybody should have averaged out 55 or 40, that's what you got from the subsidy. And I can't imagine anybody making a profit off of that either.
Right, exactly. And I think I came to a local ag meeting, and there was a lot of talk about an expiring support program for tobacco farmers. And but that does seem to be true often across the state when I talk with farmers, that support is required. Prices are so low that the example I was given, I don't smoke and I never did, but buying a pack of cigarettes, it costs $5. 5 cents of that is what goes to the tobacco farmer.
Well, that fund is wearing out, and that brings me to another one of my favorite subjects, is the fact that we need a replacement crop for tobacco, and that must be hemp. Not hemp, that must be marijuana.
Right,
whatever they decide they want to call cannabis, whatever they want to call it that makes it sound harmless, which it is harmless. The problem with the cannabis production now, as I see it, is that it's so easy for it to go wrong. You could possibly get a license here to grow cannabis or hemp. It's hemp right now, or medical marijuana. There's no market for it. There's no way to market it. There's no it's still in such an experimental stage that no one has come up with a marketing plan for it that will work.
And it's been dangerous it has been dangerous for farmers who signed contracts. I think you're aware last year there were some companies that signed contracts, we'll buy your hemp. And at the time, hemp was priced at $5,000 or $8,000 a ton, and then it dropped down to $200 a ton and bankrupted a whole bunch of farmers and, of course, a couple of businesses. So,
I hadn't heard that. We just decided once we looked at the business model, because Gary is a very accounting oriented farmer. That's one of the reasons he's been successful, is that he understands accountancy, and he does his paperwork and his cash flow and his projections. And he couldn't find a good projection for growing hemp at this point.
right.
And I think there's a whole lot of favoritism involved, or at least there was under the previous administration.
Yes. Well, what do you see for the future for Democrats in the state of Kentucky? I mean, outside of your borders, looking more broadly out for the state of Kentucky, do you feel that Democrats have a chance to gain some ground in the next, 4 years?
I think Democrats have a good chance of gaining some ground this year. And because I think there are a lot of people fed up. There are not especially a large amount of them here in this county, but I think among the suburbs that, for instance, up around Cincinnati, I think those people are pretty darn fed up with what's going on. And with Trump telling everybody...
When you say Trump...
Thank you. I was waiting for that. I took a pause there. I think that we may be able to turn suburbs because people just don't see what's in it for them to vote for Trump. There's nothing in it for them. He wants to. What I believe is going on here is that I think that they've seen COVID as an excellent opportunity to crash the economy, after which they will be able to justify taking away entitlements and just about depriving anybody who's middle class of the opportunity to remain middle class. They will take away anything that we see. They're going to take away pre-existing conditions from the health care, and what's going to be a pre-existing condition as soon as they do that.
And especially in states like Kentucky that are already suffering, where the people are already underpaid and overworked, and it's tough to find a job. I think you made a comment earlier in Breck County. It's tough to find a job unless you know someone.
Yes.
It's going to be even more and more difficult, which is why, I refer to myself these days as a progressive populist, and I like the populist name. President Trump appears to, presents himself as if he's a populist, but of course he is no populist. Populism, by the way, is defined by an author named Thomas Frank, who I adore, as social change from the grassroots up. Political and social change from the grassroots up. That is populism. And it's my belief that people are not well represented anymore in our national government, particularly, that there's too much control by corporations that buy congressional candidates and buy Senate candidates and influence
Speaking
so much.
Speaking of which, your opponent has gained many millions of dollars. I believe he was worth maybe $500,000, which sounds like a lot, but that could be a house and you're in a small business in Louisville. And now he's worth several million.
Now
And I would
wait
just like
just a damn minute.
It's true. I would just like to know how that $11 million or whatever he has is benefiting an average Kentuckian who's working on a line in a factory somewhere, or might even be an undocumented person working there.
Right. You know, the thing is, my suspicion is that Mr. Guthrie appears to have gotten very, very wealthy, especially in the last 3-4 years. And my suspicion is he hasn't broken any laws, but I believe it's Mark Twain who said, you know, the scandal isn't what's illegal, the scandal is what's legal.
Well, I agree with that.
Yeah, and most people that are, you know, bringing this up to me are mentioning how offended they are that this is going on. Meanwhile, there's a refusal to extend unemployment, the benefits, the $600 a week benefit. So we're at an unusual time. I also suggest to people, and Hildegarde, you've been around as much as I have, you know, things change. And when you go through the process of change, it can be uncomfortable, it can be scary. We're at an unusual time. I also suggest.
Sorry,
It
I'm
sounds
trying
like
to.
Gary's making a comment.
No, you were. I was sharing you, and it turned on the.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
It turned on the sound.
Roy Fraser from England. And Roy, are you in Birmingham? Is that where you are? Roy, let us know where you are. I believe I ran into Roy when I was on tour with Timothy Schmidt. And Roy says, I like this lady. Just saying.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, Roy is watching almost every day. By the way, that reminds me, everybody, please remember to share, because that's how angels get their wings. And it looks like Bill, our social media director, is still in Facebook jail a little bit. So we're going to have to figure out some way to get around that challenge. You know, Hildegarde, one of the things we talk about. David Royce comes on and comments generally about folks who are addicted, living addicted, and I know there are problems with folks in Breckenridge County. In fact, it was either Breckenridge, or you're in Kent. Roy Fraser is in Kent, England.
He's correct. As a matter of fact, my sheriff's candidate, Bruce Anthony, I said, what do you believe is the number one problem we have here? And he said, oh, it's drugs.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yes. And he said, and it's the theft that occurs. I said, well, I believe we need to identify the thieves among the people who are addicted. But it is a problem, and it isn't an illness, and they're really not prepared to meet it here. Putting someone in drug court where you test them all the time, or if they miss a call or whatever, you throw them back in jail, that doesn't help, because I have a feeling there's as much going on in the jail here as there is outside.
And I believe it may be Breck County, but it may be Meade County, that the number one healthcare provider in the county was the local jail.
Oh, I hadn't heard that one.
I believe that might be Meade County, but I'm not positive. And David mentions the idea of giving people who are addicted a safe minimum daily dose, which is something that's been done in nations like, Amsterdam does that. And they've cut
I think Britain had a good model for treating people who were addicted. And I think that they decriminalized it. I may be wrong, but it seems like in the 80s or 90s, heroin was decriminalized, or it was made so that you could get help more readily. But they do have national health insurance also. That,
of course, helps. And I agree with the idea of decriminalizing addiction. Now, if you're high on drugs and you break into someone's house,
that's
you should
theft.
that's different. You should be punished for that. But But simply when you get pulled over for a broken taillight and they find out, they do administer a drug test and find out you've been high, that should send you back to rehab or to some sort of treatment, not to prison, because I don't believe we deal with. Roy Fraser says, yes, they treated the addicts in England, in the UK. One of the ways you measure the success of a program is by a percentage rate, the number of people that come off. And it's very difficult to get people off of addictive drugs. I spoke to a provider in Kentucky, and I believe in the second district. The boundaries are touchy. I'm not sure. Anyway, at their place, they were saying 17 to 22%. Well, in Amsterdam, when they give a steady supply of a safe dose, they were able to get 25% of the people just on their own to get off of drugs. So I imagine that with adding treatment, you could raise that percentage pretty seriously.
And lower the crime rate somewhat.
And it would lower the crime rate. It certainly would, because they'd know they have a safe available dose. Well, we are out of time. Hildegarde, I'm so glad you were here, and I hope you'll come back and talk with us.
I will anytime, and thank you for calling me. And hi, everybody. If you are a Kentucky voter, here's the guy to vote for. And if you're a Breck County voter, remember, please vote for Bruce Anthony. Just hit the straight ticket. You can never go wrong that way.
Well, we say push the damn D.
That's right. Push the damn D.
Oh, very sad news. David Royce said, my son, Chad Christopher Royce, died last night from a drug overdose.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so, it's a shame.
David, I'm really sorry. That's terrible news. And
Very sad.
I know that all of us are heartbroken, and we can't even imagine what you're going through. Okay, well, it's not just this virus that we need to go Godzilla on. We have a broad array of problems that we need to deal with in this country. We've got a lot of opportunities to make things better, and it's my belief that our country will be better once we start to deal with these things. But it's going to require some focus, and it's going to require some commitment to each other. And by the way, Hildegarde, thank you for your commitment. How much money do you get paid as the Democratic Party chair?
Nothing.
Exactly. So
not that I wanted any, and I don't even get that much appreciation.
Well, bless you for your service. There's obviously so much to do, and thank you for being here. And
You're welcome.
David, our hearts go out to you, and we'll be thinking about you for the foreseeable future. And
Hank, I've never been paid for anything I've done that had to do with politics, and I've been doing it for 50 years.
I haven't been paid yet either. In fact, Pam and I have paid to do this. Pam Linderman says, I appreciate you, Hildegarde. Well,
thank you so much, Pam. And I'll tell you, I was a California elected official, and I donated my salary back to the place where I was the elected official for. And I've never taken any money for it. It's not worth it. If that's not what it's for.
And that's not exactly what Brett Guthrie and Mitch McConnell will do. That's not exactly what they're up to.
No.
All right. Well, it's time for us to go. Thank you so much, Hildegarde. Everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. This is Getting Angry. And we love you. See you tomorrow at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern.